Okay, so today we are talking about status in society, and the anxiety that that creates in our society. And I want to begin with a um, a story about a man named Robert Sapolsky, who you may have heard of. He's a professor, scientist at Stanford University, and he did an extraordinary research study in which he followed the lives or cohabited with baboons for several periods of time. I mean, he would go oftentimes, I think it spans around 30 years of his work, living with the baboons, visiting the baboons, studying the baboons. And Robert Sapolsky, his story begins actually as a child. He grew up in New York, and his mother took him to, I guess, the the Museum of Natural History in New York, and there he saw this silverback gorilla in one of the exhibitions, and he felt this calling, and he wanted to live there with them, and he did that in life. He went to study them, and he lived with them, and he discovered this amazing thing regarding status and depression, anxiety in our society. So one of the things that he discovered there is that the baboons, they have a very locked hierarchical society, very locked. So there's one like alpha male, and then every baboon kind of falls within a different tier of the hierarchy, all the way down to the lowest ranking baboons. And when he went to study the baboons, he's noticed some characters. So one of them was Solomon, who he named Solomon, the alpha baboon. Solomon was, really tough, really tough. Uh, he would, he could snatch food away from anybody whenever he wanted to. He could just kick somebody out from who was enjoying some shade if he felt hot. He could have sex with any of the females. He had complete control over the entire community of baboons. Nobody dared question him. He gained that status by previously antagonizing the previous alpha male, and finally kind of, overbearingly breaking that one down, and he assumed this top position. So Solomon was a very tough patriarch in the community. And beneath him, there was also the female baboons. It's interesting. He noticed that the female baboons, they developed their status. They were guaranteed their status by way of their mother. Depending on where their mothers fell, the daughters would assume that social position. They could be also among the top 5 female baboons. But for the males, the way that they guaranteed their position in the hierarchy is based on brute force, so fighting. They have to fight their way to the top. And he also saw the lowest ranking baboon. The lowest ranking baboon in the community he called Job. And Job was constantly harassed. His food could be taken from him by anybody in the community. He could be slapped around by anybody in the community. He was full of bite marks from different attacks that he had been given, and he was very slow to heal those bruises as well, and we'll talk a little bit about why in a moment. So Job, being the lowest ranking baboon in the community, he actually looked that way as well. He would have his head down, his body would be lowered, and the scientists drew different conclusions on what that body posture also communicates, okay, on a primal level and on a social level. So he was constantly stressed out. This poor baboon, constantly stressed out, weary of all of the people that could possibly attack him and harm him. And he never got to mate. Um, so, so then one of the things that Sapolsky would do is he would, in the mornings around 5 a.m., he'd wake up early, and his job at the time, at the moment, was to throw the darts at the baboons and put them temporarily to sleep so that he can go and draw a blood sample. Because he wanted to test all along in the bloodstream of these baboons, what level of cortisol did they have, which is the stress hormones that baboons and human beings share. Part of the reason why he wanted to study baboons is because, they are one of our closest cousins. They're very, very similar to human beings in different ways. So he saw that among the community, that all of the lowest ranking baboons always had the highest amounts of cortisol in their bloodstream. So they were often, kind of like chronically stressed. And he also noticed that the other times in which the baboons had high cortisol levels was when their status was being threatened. So, for example, if Solomon was being threatened by another male baboon, then in that instance, Solomon's stress level would be as high as the lowest ranking baboons. But the difference is that he would be that way during those cases. The lowest ranking baboons kind of had that chronically. They were in this constant state of depression. So baboons are they're very similar to human beings because actually they don't have that many predators that they have to worry about. So in their day, they have about 3 hours of time in which they spend burning calories, finding food, and doing active things. But other than that, they have about 9 hours to kill every day, given that they have a pretty good kind of general status in the animal kingdom. And within that time, since they don't fear any outside danger, they just kind of terrorize each other, and they enforce this strict hierarchy amongst each other. It's just like human life. We also benefit from not having, external predators attacking us all the time. So who do we attack? We attack each other. We make ourselves miserable without any other species needing to necessarily make us miserable. So, but we are, of course, very different from baboons. Baboons are locked in that system. It's fair to say that they will never be able to break out of these strict hierarchies. But human beings do have multiple hierarchies. Human beings, for example, maybe you don't have a very high status at your job, okay? But outside of your job, maybe you can be like captain of your softball team. You could be a beloved member of your spiritual community, like here in Vistara Circle. Um, but what we have in common with the baboons is that basically human beings, when they have depression and they suffer from anxiety, they have high levels of cortisol in their system. And cortisol is a stress hormone that is used as a defense mechanism. So, for example, if there's an actual attack, an actual reason to feel, attacked, like there's an aggressor or an animal is coming to attack you. In that moment, your body creates cortisol. And what the cortisol does is it temporarily kind of shuts down your digestive system. It increases your blood pressure. It fires from your thighs, and boom, you have a lot of energy to overcome this very real threat. So it's very helpful in that way on an evolutionary level. But we human beings are firing cortisol not because we have real threats, but because we, like for example, if our boss looks at us the wrong way, if we get if we see people that have more money than us, we see people that have more status than us, we feel threatened by our peers who we perceive as having higher value for whatever reason, then our cortisol is increasing and we're making ourselves miserable in that way. And it's not just our own fault. Everybody goes through this problem. Even Solomon, to close the story with Solomon, here he is again. One day there was another younger baboon who had the nerve to walk up to Solomon and start mating with one of the highest ranking females in the community. And Solomon immediately smacked him and ripped open his lip. So, that other baboon was named Uriah, and Uriah walked away, but he came back the next day, and he came back, and he came back, and he came back almost every day. And one day, when he approached, Solomon actually took a step back, and this was kind of his downfall. And eventually, he was demoted, and Uriah overcame him, and he became now the alpha baboon. And when Solomon was demoted, because he had been such a ruthless alpha male, suddenly the whole community turned against him and completely demoralized him and humiliated him and made his life hell out of revenge, until one day he just walked away into the savannah and he never returned. So scientists wonder, why is it that the baboons, when they are in this low ranking position, especially one like Job, and then eventually like Solomon, the head is down, the body is hunched over, very, is it that on a primal level, this is a response to submission? So they are physically communicating for their own safety, let's say. Hey, I'm defeated. I'm defeated. I am no threat to anybody here. Please leave me alone. Okay? All of you have more power than me. Leave me alone. Is it something like that is happening biologically? And the same thing, in our own societies, when we see people's body language, they're so insecure, they're shaking, they look so afraid. Even though the depression is occurring in their mind, you see the physical symptoms. And is it possible that those physical symptoms are sending a message to the world that says, just leave me alone. I'm defeated. You have full control over me, let's say. So, we human beings suffer from this tremendously, actually. We're no different than the baboons in that regard, but we do have more options and more solutions, which we'll talk about, thankfully. Kate Pickett and Richard Wilkinson wrote a fabulous book called The Spirit Level. And in that book, they talk about, the whole book is about inequality. What inequality creates in the world that we live in. And in the societies where there is the most inequality, like the United States, for example, the higher levels of inequality that exist in a society, the higher the levels of depression. It is a very defined correlation. And think about what kind of inequality we have here in the United States. I mean, it used to be that the top employee at a job would make 20 times more than what the bottom employee makes. But now it's up to 300. And in some statistics I read, it's up to 500 times that the top employee of a company makes than the lowest employee. And studies have shown that those employees at the lowest levels of any company, of a hierarchy, they are the ones that have the highest stress levels. Even though you could argue that the top employees have more work and are more worried about different things, about more things. So we are just, we think of somebody also like scrolling through Instagram. scrolling through Facebook, and they see, oh wow, look at this mansion here, look at this really hot guy here with his expensive car. Look at this woman, she's so beautiful. And when we are scrolling through this social media and we are comparing ourselves to other people like this, we are making ourselves miserable because we feel like our status is in jeopardy. And sometimes it's very irrational. Sometimes it's very irrational. Like for example, you know, actually, where this term anxiety, status anxiety comes from is from a modern philosopher, Alain de Botton. And this man, he's an awesome philosopher. He wrote the book Anxiety, Status Anxiety, and he mentions that nowadays in England, like modern people in England, they don't envy the Queen. They don't envy the Queen because the Queen is like sort of like in another world, right? So the average person doesn't envy the Queen in England, regardless of all her wealth and power. But they will, however, envy their coworker because somehow they see that, yeah, the coworker and I are kind of on an even platform. Okay. So there's more competition there. I have a reason to envy that person. You know, so and part of the reasons why we feel that way is because we live in a quote unquote meritocracy. And this is something else that he talks about. A meritocracy is a society in which, is that supposedly everything is fair. Everybody has an equal opportunity to get to the top, to become successful. In past times, when, or think of like a caste society, a caste system like in India, where you're born into a caste. You will never break out of that caste, hence you will always be stuck in that status. During those times, then people don't blame you for being low ranking, having low status, because you were born into that status. But in our meritocracy, where supposedly anybody can be big and anybody can be successful, not only are you credited for your success, but you are credited for your lack of success. And people perceive you as having lower value because for some reason you are not meeting the standards that society creates of beauty and happiness and wealth or whatever. So this is even more painful now for us human beings. And it's a shared reality that we really, really need to overcome. We have to break through because we're making ourselves miserable for no reason, subscribing to these values of status that are stupid and destructive. I also think of, for example, there's a poem by Gwendolyn Brooks called "We Real Cool." "We Real Cool" is kind of depicting the lives of young African American males who the poem is about like how she walks past the pool hall and she sees these young men there who should really be in school, but they happen to be playing pool rather than going to school, and they look like they look like they're having a good time and like they're on top of things, and the poem says, "We real cool, we left school, we lurk late, we strike straight. We jazz June, we die soon." I may have omitted one of the lines, but basically, it's this idea of coolness. Let's say in this idea of coolness, that these young men, they don't have power in society. They don't have families with power. They don't have families that can allow them to inherit wealth and power. And so they know then, like F school. Like, why would I bother going to school? It's not going to lead me to anything. The society has already put me in a caste in a way that I won't ever be able to break out. So I will maybe take up a life of crime. I will try to be cool, and um, I will wade these treacherous waters in this way. But what happens to them at the end of the poem? They die soon. Their lives become destroyed based on a false sense of coolness and the real dangers that they suffer from when they choose these lives that are outside of the status quo, where they could be incarcerated, murdered more than white people, more than their white counterparts. So we see this thing about status and coolness, how it plays in different ways in our society, and it drives us insane. And it's something that we need to bust out of. And now I want to start talking about the strategies, but I would love to start hearing also your comments. Okay? In fact, I would like to take a little pause and see if there is a comment, and then go from there. Oh, Crescendo, I'm so glad you made it. I was just thinking about you because I wanted to send you the link to this, but I figured you had the link anyway. I'm glad you're here, brother. But I see that Ramadan said namaskar. Stefan is giving us a little emoji there. Looks like a cute emoji. And Izaka, hi Izaka, it's so wonderful you're here. It's your 5th time. So happy to see you, to feel your presence here. And Clifford, namaskar from Austin. Yes, brother. Also on Facebook, we have, let's see what comments we have here. Thanks, Karen. You shared on Facebook and Twitter. We love you so much. I love you so much. Thanks for doing that. Let's see here. Jefferson, our brother Hitendra says, thank you for signing the attendance sheet. This is one of the reasons for hypnotherapy. Therapists work to remove belief systems that make us feel less than enough. Bullies ultimately do not feel that they are enough and thus feel a need to prove it through their actions towards others. Our beliefs about our external validations are what drive us to overcome ourselves in one way or another. Meditation and hypnosis can aid in this way in very fundamental ways that allow us to take back our power to be complete, fulfilled, and enough within ourselves. Precisely. I think that you hit it. I agree with you when you said there. I agree with your whole statement when you said our beliefs about our external validations are what drive us to overcome ourselves in one way or another. Yeah, sometimes we are driven by these extrinsic things, right? Like our status, and to overcome things. But in a way, there we're gonna, it's much better to be driven by something intrinsic, like your own real internal value. Okay, so thank you, brother. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing also in hypnotherapy to help people remove these belief systems, like you said, that makes you feel particularly vulnerable to this status anxiety. Ritva says, I missed this today because we have changed to wintertime in Sweden. Okay, but glad you're here. Welcome, Ritva, namaskar. Now, thanks for your comments, folks, and please feel free to write more. Let's begin talking about some strategies rather than just, kind of not know what to do about this, right? So I'd like to actually go to a little philosophy now for this, a little tantric philosophy. We have stories, right? We say that Shiva, who was a guru that we believed lived about 7,000 years ago, his wife Parvati, she she was like, his they were a very good example of a relationship. They were both very spiritually advanced, intellectually advanced, and she some of the first tantras that were kind of lost over the years are the agama and the nigama. The agama are the questions that Parvati would ask Shiva, and nigama were the answers that Shiva would give to her questions. And one day she asked a very important question that is going to now, I'm going to propose to you as solutions for this problem of status anxiety. She said to him, I don't know exactly, I'm going to make up a word here. My love, can you please tell us, what does it mean to be successful and how to be successful? And Shiva said, many people, everybody is trying to be successful in life, but so many people end up dying without ever being successful. He said, in order to be successful in life, there are 7 secrets to success. Because in a way, the anxiety, the status anxiety problem we're talking about is very much the other side of what does it mean to be successful, because to have high status is to be successful, right? So then how to be successful? What does it mean to be successful? So Shiva says there are 7 secrets. The first secret is firm determination. Firm determination. I will reach my goal, and I will reach my goal no matter what. And what this means as well. And when my guru talked about these 7 secrets, he used these interesting examples. He said, there are many philosophers and logicians who may try to tell me that what I'm doing is wrong, but I will not listen to them. I will stay focused on my goal and move toward my ideology. This is kind of how he talked. I'm trying to imitate him. So, basically what he's saying is we need to not care about what people think about us. We need to not care. We need to not care what, and even my guru said, and suppose even Lakshmi, the mythological Hindu goddess of wealth, should come and say, you will no longer have these riches. Your response should be, I don't care about any of these riches. I am still going to do my goal. I am still going to fulfill my dharma. And he said, even if the god Pluto should come and want to take your life, you should say, if I die today or I die 100 years from now, I will be faithful to my goal, and I will go through the monotony of life and bear the monotony of life and reach my goal. And so what we're saying is we need to learn to not care about what people think about us. Forget that shit. If somebody, if you put on an event and only 2 people show up, that's okay. If somebody else puts on an event and 100 people show up, don't feel like that is a comment on you. You need to continue putting on your events, continue moving toward your goal. It doesn't matter the feedback really that you're getting. Now, within reason, it's good to take in feedback. Yes, I agree, but I want you to right now try to follow the point that I'm making. So, isn't it funny how all of us want respect and approval from everybody, right? I walk down the street and I want everybody who should happen to glance at me to smile at me. I want everybody who I should happen to talk to, treat me really nicely. We all want that. But yet we don't even know these people. We don't even know them. Why would we want their respect and approval when we ourselves don't respect or approve of them. We don't walk around trying to respect and approve everybody. I mean, if you do, that's good. In fact, we should try to do that. We should give everybody respect, give everybody a smile, give everybody an opportunity to feel welcome. We should be doing that actually, but we don't. It's the opposite. We want everybody to do that to us, but yet we don't even care about those people. So try to remove yourself from the opinions of others by narrowing down who is important to you. Whose respect do you want? Right? Most people, philosophers even go to the extent that they're very misanthropic and they say, most people are stupid. I don't believe that. But I'm just saying that to prove a point. Most people are stupid. Don't feel like you have to be understood by everybody. Don't feel like you have to be justified, that you have to justify yourself to everybody. So that's part of the first secret, is this firm determination of you staying focused regardless of the things happening around you. Then another secret is Shraddha, having reverence for the supreme, having reverence for that supreme entity. And, we yogis, tantric yogis like us here, we practice brahmacharya, which is one of the yamas and niyamas, to see everything as an expression of the divine. So if we have reverence for the supreme, then we should see the supreme in everything, right? Even in the ordinary. A lot of times the best literature that you'll find, the best literature, and even the best movies sometimes, some of them, but I'm talking about literature like Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, or Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. These are about just ordinary people. These stories are about ordinary people, many of them poor, low-ranking people, quote unquote, from our society, okay? In our society. But yet the literature goes deep into their lives, into the complexity of their humanity, their sorrows, their triumphs. Do you see then that actually how we, in literature, when we try to portray heroes, a lot of times they are in just the ordinary people. It's only in our world where we think that the heroes are the rich, the powerful, the elite, but the greatest of artists know that that's not where you find real beauty. That's not where we should give our reverence. The real beauty is a lot of times is in the ordinary. And there's no greater evidence of that than in literature. So then another secret to success is, to find a guru, to find a good teacher. So that's very important. Find some proper teachings, One more thing to add about Shraddha. Also, where else do we find the supreme? In nature. And sometimes we human beings compare ourselves to each other. But we should really, if we are more connected to nature, we'll have less of that. Because, imagine that there's a rich man and myself, out one day and a hurricane should hit. Okay? His chances of survival are just as likely as mine. The hurricane is not going to say, "Ooh, pardon me, Mr. Rich Man, move aside. I have to get this peasant here." Krishnatma. Right? No, the hurricane will wipe both of us out. So then, sometimes, I've never tried this, but it occurred to me that one day, if I shall have a friend that is being very materialistic, maybe I'll do an exercise with them, where I'll take them to a cemetery, and we'll look at all the graves there, especially an old cemetery, like near my house. There's some that are from the 1800s and things like that. But I want to take them to that cemetery, and I want to ask them, so who here do you think was the richest person? Which of these dead people here, these tombstones here, probably belongs to the person of the most money? There's no way to know. And at the end, now 100 years later, it doesn't matter one bit. Everybody dies. Death is the great equalizer. And sometimes we need to remember that, almost as an expression of the supreme consciousness, I think as a part of Shraddha, to say that we're all going to die. Okay? Don't think that that rich person is going to keep any of that money. They're going to keep their status. So let's do what's important. You're going to die. They're going to die. Just enjoy life. Enjoy life. Focus on your mission. Focus on what you need to do. And don't worry about external results very much. Okay? So then another one is to have mental equipoise, right? To get rid of the inferiority complexes, the superiority complexes. To practice all-around self-restraint is another secret of success that Shiva taught. That I can also connect to what I just said about death. You know, think about death like this too. And this is a nice connection. Elaine de Bouton also talks about this. So one way that you can start, like I know somebody very dear to me who has a lot of friends, a lot of friends, and she would love to spend as much time as possible with all these people, okay? But one question that I would like to ask her, if it's ever appropriate, and if she should ever want to kind of back away from this kind of lifestyle that sometimes thins her out and doesn't let her do what's important, is ask her now, of all of these people that you know, which of them do you think would come visit you on your deathbed in the hospital the last few hours of your life? Maybe only my son, my daughter, maybe only my sister, maybe only my dear friend, this person. But probably not this vast amount of people that I want to really associate with. So that can help us too to kind of remove ourselves a little too much from these feelings of wanting status based on these social connections. Social connections are very important. We talked about this before here, but not when it comes to it defining your value, your worth. And then the last two of the secrets, one is balanced diet. I'd like to also connect this with nature. Shiva said, eat the foods that are good for your body, mind, and spirit. Okay? So, well, anyways, so try to eat some natural foods. Make that be the way that you connect with nature as well. Nature can have a very healing effect for depression and anxiety. We'll talk about that in another session. But this is one way to make connections based on what Shiva said. He said, follow a balanced diet. So follow a natural diet as much as possible. That's good for your body, mind, and soul. And the last secret is a big mystery. Sometimes I draw a different conclusion about it, and probably you know this one. It's the easiest one to remember. There is no seventh secret. Why do you think Shiva said that? That there is no seventh secret after he gave all these secrets. He said there's 7 of them, but number 7 is that there is no 7th one. So I'll wait to hear from you about that. Let's take a look now at the comments. Alrighty. Let's see here. So, Hitendra says, affirm daily, I am enough. I love myself. This is very powerful when looking yourself in the eyes in a mirror. This comes from self-experience. I am whole and complete within myself. I am successful because I am grateful, happy, joyful, thankful for all that I experience. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you, brother. I recommend saying that after your meditation one day. Go ahead and do that. You know, we have to do these things because we also talked about this a few sessions back. We live in a society where capitalism is telling us we're seeing 5,000 ads a day, apparently, according to scientists. All those ads are telling you something. Get more of me. You are not enough without me. So a huge sense of lack does exist in our society. And Hitendra says, be your own superhero. That's right. You are, in the end, the hero of your journey. Okay? Ashley, she says, I leave for boot camp soon, and I've been very anxious, but I keep reminding myself what my goal is and how I really want this for myself. This helps me stay motivated and focused. Okay, Ashley. That is definitely the way to go. In fact, where are you going? Are you going to the Marines? Are you going to the Army? The Marines, the Marines have a secret. They have a really good strategy that they use in their boot camp training. There's at the end of the Marine training, it's like that ultimate test where they're like, they don't eat for like 3 days. They're like trying to survive and going through this obstacle course for like 3 days. I forget the name of it, but in that they say one of the things that they tell the Marines to do is to ask each other questions while they're out there, and begin all the questions with why. So they got it, A Marine who is struggling at the end there to pass this last test, and they feel like giving up. They're hungry, they're cold, they're miserable. A teammate will say, "Why are you here? Why are you doing this?" "I'm here for my daughter. I'm here for a better life for myself. I'm here for..." And that's what pushes them along. So I think, Ashley, that you being fully aware of why it is that you want to be in the Navy is, and reminding yourself of that is going to help you push through any adversity that you might encounter. Okay? So I wish you all the best. And I also want to invite you to get in touch with me should you want to talk about meditation, life, etc. I'll be putting my calendar soon, okay? For you to contact me here on the chat. And Jamila says, meditation helps me put things in order in my mind, creates peace within self, allows me to reassess things and get things right with others if I have to, especially singing Bhavanam Kevalam. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Jamila. I'm so happy that that these teachings that we have are resonating with you. They are ancient teachings. And sometimes the most basic ancient things, we human beings forget their value. But when we give them time and effort, we practice them like you're doing, we see lots of results, right? Lots of great results. So thanks for reminding us of that, Jamila. Okay, we should start to close. I want to thank all of you for being here. And then Hitendra replied to Ashley. He said, "Thank you for giving your life to our service and defense, honor, and love for you. Namaskar." All right.